Hello my friends.
We are delighted to welcome you to the Barrens.
We have just returned from an expedition into the depths of the Wailing Caverns, and are ready to share with you a list of the best decks that players use to hit legend.
In addition, we will determine the impact of the miniset on the metagame and the best and worst classes,
as well as share some general opinions with you.
First, let's determine the level of popularity of new cards in the metagame. According to the results of the first 3 days, the new miniset had only 5% popularity. By the end of the first week, the popularity of the cards dropped to 4.3%.
The most popular cards in the metagame are still from Scholomance Academy. The popularity of cards from Forged in the Barrens is gradually declining.
A few words about the popularity of classes in the metagame. The Paladin nerf and cards from the Wailing Caverns have had a big impact on changing the popularity of classes. The Shaman has significantly increased his presence in the meta, while the presence of Paladins has been cut in half.
Let's talk about each class in more detail, starting with Demon Hunter.
On ladder you can find Lifesteal, Midrange and Big Demon Hunter archetypes, but Deathrattle is still the best. This archetype has one of the highest win rates in the standard metagame at over 58%. After the release of the miniset, Deathrattle Demon Hunter failed to take its final form. Players experimented with Devouring Ectoplasm, Archdruid Neralex, and even Mutanus in some newer versions of the deck, but only Felrattler has become an important card in most builds. We suggest that you use a less experimental build that currently performs better in the metagame. The worst matchups for Deathrattle Demon Hunter are Spell Druid, Token Druid and Face Hunter.
Druid has slightly increased its presence in the standard format, but not due to the mini expansion. Lady Anaconda has become an important card for Miracle Druid, but unfortunately the deck has a very low win rate. The Primordial and Spell archetypes are the only effective Druid strategies, but both use no new cards. Spell Druid currently has a slightly higher win rate. This is the most budget-friendly deck on our list. You only need 4 epic cards to create this build, and its efficiency is almost 59%. According to hsreplay.net, this deck has seen 22,000 games over the past week. The worst matchups for Spell Druid are Evolve Shaman and Control Warrior.
Next in line is Hunter. The community's expectations were confirmed. According to the results of player votes, Rexa received the worst cards in the Wailing Caverns.
This is an incredible success for the players. Perhaps for the first time in the history of the game, the community, through a vote, was able to determine the worst and best cards in a set extremely accurately. You can verify this by watching our video with the community compendium results. During the first week after the release of the mini expansion, Hunter did not use new cards in popular decks, even as an experiment. The effectiveness of the Leorox OTK strategy remains at around 50% while the win rate of the Deathrattle archetype is 47%. But the best archetype is still Face Hunter, which is one of the best decks in the game. The worst opponent of this deck is Priest.
Mage received freeze synergy cards, which became important components in the ping strategy, but this did not help the archetype become more effective. No Minion Mage is still the best archetype, although on average its efficiency is only slightly above 50%. Today we want to show you a popular version of the deck without Deck of Lunacy. In general, the main drawback of No Minion Mage is its low efficiency against other popular decks.
Despite a significant decline in popularity, Paladin has the most effective archetypes, but at the same time they are no longer as deadly as before. Paladins, like Hunters, completely ignored new cards.
The best archetype remains Menagerie Paladin. This deck hasn't undergone major changes since the buffs. You will still need 6 epic and 3 legendary cards. The average deck win rate is nearly 60%. If you choose this deck to conquer the ladder, your main opponents will be Deathrattle Demon Hunter, Face Hunter and Elemental Shaman.
It's time to talk about Priest. The new set didn't change much for Anduin. The most significant change concerns the relatively new Menagerie Priest archetype, which came after the N'Zoth buff. This deck took 2 new cards from the miniset, the Mutanus and Against All Odds spells. The deck is extremely expensive, you need 4 legendary and 6 epic cards. Unfortunately, Menagerie Priest is not very good against No Minion Mage, Menagerie Paladin and Control Warlock, while it is good against the most aggressive decks and the most popular control decks.
Rogue is another class that doesn't use the new cards at all. Miracle Rogue is the most popular strategy, but Secret Rogue is a bit more effective. The worst opponents of this deck are Face Hunter, Spell Druid, Elemental Shaman and Rush Warrior. The average win rate of the build is 57%.
Shaman received the most benefits from the release of the new expansion. The community has unmistakably determined that Shaman received the best tools in the set. Only a few new cards allowed him to move from being outsider of the meta to being top favorite. All archetypes except Murlocs have received an upgrade. Aggro Shaman and Elemental Shaman are almost equally strong, but Elemental Shaman performs slightly better at higher ranks. Wailing Vapor and Primal Dungeoneer have become an integral part of the archetype. The deck has practically no drawbacks, having high efficiency and low cost. And most importantly, the only serious opponent of Elemental Shaman is Rush Warrior.
Another class that has hardly found use for the new cards is Warlock. You still have 3 strategies to choose from: Control, Zoo and Elite. Warlock is definitely the worst class in standard mode. Control Warlock is an extremely popular strategy, and is the best option for climbing the ladder.
Players have been trying to experiment with Mutanus and Archdruid Neralex in some versions of the deck, but these experiments tend to lower win rates. Therefore, for a better win rate we recommend using the classic version of the deck. The archetype as a whole has a large number of bad matchups. You will become fodder for the Face Hunter, Deathrattle Demon Hunter, Menagerie Paladin and almost all kinds of shamans.
The fate of the Warlock in wild mode deserves special attention. In the first hours after the release of the mini expansion, a new version of Mecha'thun Warlock began to gain popularity. The combination of Stealer of Souls, Plot Twist and Violet Illusionist blocked competitive play in wild mode for a time. Fortunately, the developers announced the imminent banning of the Stealer of Souls card in wild.
Finally, let's talk about Warrior. The Warrior is one of the few classes that tries to use new cards in their strategies. The most popular Warrior archetype is Control Warrior, but its effectiveness is low. Rush Warrior is still the best strategy.
This version of the deck is a kind of hybrid of the new Control Warrior build and the old version of Rush Warrior. The deck has a fairly high win rate and uses new legendary cards. Among the disadvantages of this deck is the very high cost. You need 7 legendary and 4 epic cards. The main advantage of the deck is its incredible resistance against almost all archetypes except Primordial Druid and Control Warlock.
It's time to take stock. The Wailing Caverns failed to create completely new archetypes, but some cards have taken an important place in Miracle Druid, Ping Mage, Control Warrior, Rush Warrior and also brought Aggro Shaman and Elemental Shaman to a whole new level. All the legendary cards from the mini-set are useful, but not all of them are used in effective decks.
The community, thanks to joint efforts, managed to very accurately determine the potential power of the set as a whole, as well as the most useful cards.
Guys, what are your impressions of the new cards?
As you know, we are not fans of paid mini-sets, although the concept of new cards in the middle of the expansion phase seems very cool to us. I don't even want to talk about how this negatively affects the cost of the game for new and returning players. Despite the very attractive cost, buying 35 cards, more than half of which are completely useless, does not seem like a good deal. I believe that a few good cards can change the meta much more than a lot of bad cards.
In our opinion, Wailing Caverns has too little impact on deck building. It looks like our theory is being confirmed. Mini-sets are not trying to significantly shake up the metagame. New cards just add a little more variety, which means that they are not required to buy. If this is the original goal of the developers, then I like the mini-set in its current form a little more.
If you want more variety, buy a mini-set, but if you refuse to purchase, then you will lose almost nothing. This approach is fair enough. We devoted a separate video to our theory, in which we indicated which players should refuse to buy a mini-set. This video is still relevant, so check it out if you missed it.
Finally, we can't wait to hear your feedback on the new cards.
Which way did you choose to get new cards? Did the mini-set have enough impact on the metagame? And the most important question, should mini-sets be mandatory for purchase?
Share your opinion in the comments and vote on our community page.
We will be extremely grateful to you for liking and subscribing to the channel as well as for turning on all notifications using the bell icon. You can also join our squad of loyal patrons and help us create new videos.
Dear friends, from all of my robotic heart, thank you so much for any kind of support.
Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for being with us.
And special thanks to Chris for his invaluable help.
We will definitely meet in a new video. Good luck.